I never thought walking a few steps across the hall could feel like crossing a line I wasn't supposed to. Her door was open just enough for me to see the glow of a lamp inside, the faint shadow of her moving about. She must have heard me coming home, because before I could put my keys away, her voice carried softly through the gap. "Coffee? It's fresh." It wasn't unusual for her to offer. She'd lived across from me since I moved in. She was in her mid-40s, always composed, always polite. The kind of neighbor who remembered birthdays, who'd ask about my classes, who somehow managed to make casual conversation feel like more than small talk. I told myself it was nothing, but still, I crossed the hall and stepped inside. Her apartment was different from mine. Warm, softer somehow. Curtains drawn low, golden lamplight catching the dust in the air. A faint record played somewhere in the corner, crackling like it had lived through years of late nights. On the table, 2 mugs already waited. She'd known I'd say yes. She smiled at me, but her eyes didn't look away as quickly as they should have. I felt it, that pause, that subtle weight in the silence. I sat down, too aware of my own body, trying not to look stiff. She slid a mug toward me, her fingers brushing mine. Just a second, barely noticeable, but my chest tightened all the same. We talked about the usual things. The neighbors upstairs who argued too loudly, the rain that hadn't stopped for 3 days, the heater that rattled like it might give out. But under each word, there was something else. She answered my questions with half-smiles, with pauses where her gaze drifted over my face before flicking away. I tried to talk more than I normally would, filling the space with stories that didn't matter. She listened, leaning back on the couch, cardigan slipping off her shoulder as if gravity had conspired with her silence. At one point, she laughed when I stumbled over my words, a low laugh that felt like it didn't belong to a casual evening. Her hand reached out, just a light touch on my knee, nothing more. My whole body stilled. She seemed to notice, pulling her hand back quickly, cheeks coloring in the dim light. "I shouldn't," she murmured, then bit her lip and sipped her coffee instead. The clock ticked louder than it should have. The rain outside pressed against the windows. She turned her body toward me, closer than before. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that her perfume tangled with the steam rising between us. She lowered her voice then, leaning in so I could feel her breath near my ear. "Don't call me neighbor tonight." The words sank deep, trembling in the quiet. My mug nearly slipped from my hands. When I turned, she was already watching me, steady, unflinching, like she was daring me to break the silence first. I didn't. I couldn't. And then, just as the moment stretched thin, a sharp knock rattled her door. The knock at the door lingered in the air long after it stopped. She froze, her breath caught, eyes darting toward the sound. For a second, I thought she might answer it, but she didn't move. She just waited, shoulders tight, until the footsteps faded down the hall. Only then did she look back at me, a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. Probably the wrong door. Her voice sounded steadier than the silence between us. I nodded, though my chest was still tight from what she'd whispered a moment before. I wanted to ask what she meant, why she said it, but the words lodged in my throat. She leaned back into the couch, exhaling like she'd been holding something in for too long. "It's strange," she said, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. "You remind me of a time when things were easier." The way she said easier carried a weight I couldn't ignore. I didn't push. I just listened. She told me about her marriage, or what was left of it. A husband who traveled more than he stayed. A house that once felt full, but now felt like a place she was waiting to leave. She admitted she hated how much of herself she'd given away over the years, how hard it was to look in the mirror sometimes. I wanted to tell her she had nothing to be ashamed of, that the way she looked at me tonight had already undone me in ways I couldn't explain. But I kept my mouth shut, fingers tightening around the coffee mug until the heat stung my palms. I shared a little too, about how I'd always felt like I was standing at the edge of things, watching other people live lives I didn't know how to claim for myself. I'd dated, sure, but never stayed long enough for it to matter. There was always the sense that I didn't quite belong to anyone, or maybe that no one ever really saw me the way I wanted them to. Her eyes softened at that. She turned fully toward me, tucking one leg under herself, cardigan slipping again. That's the worst feeling, isn't it? Not being seen. The words hit deeper than she probably meant them to. Silence stretched again, but this time it felt different. Not heavy, more like a thread pulling us closer. I thought about the age gap, about the fact that she was my neighbor, that she was married, that I'd be lying if I said I hadn't imagined this moment before. Every reason to stop screamed at me, but none of them were louder than the way her knee brushed mine again. Neither of us moved away this time. She reached for her mug, but her hand trembled slightly, and instead of picking it up, her fingers grazed the back of my hand. The touch was light, hesitant, but enough to burn straight through me. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine wide, searching, and neither of us pulled back. Her fingers lingered on mine longer than either of us expected. For a moment, I thought she might pull away. Instead, she stayed still, eyes locked on me, lips parting as though a word might escape. The space between us shrank. I didn't even notice leaning closer until I could feel the warmth of her breath. Her lashes lowered, just slightly, her lips inches from mine. The sound of a key turning in her front door made us jolt apart. She shot up from the couch, nearly knocking over her mug. "Damn it," she whispered, her face drained of color. I sat frozen as the door creaked open. A man's voice, deep, careless, carried into the room. "Didn't expect you to still be up." Her husband. I hadn't met him before, though I'd seen him once or twice in the hallway. He stepped inside, suitcase in hand, his shirt wrinkled, eyes tired but sharp enough to clock me instantly. His brow furrowed. "Oh, company." My mouth was dry. "I just came by for coffee." He nodded slowly, gaze flicking between the two mugs on the table. His wife stood near the window now, arms folded, looking anywhere but at him. "Late for coffee, isn't it?" he asked. No one answered. The silence stretched, so thin it felt like it might break. Finally, she forced a smile. "He helped me carry some things earlier. I thought I'd thank him properly." Her tone was casual, but her hands twisted at the fabric of her cardigan. Her husband gave a non-committal grunt and disappeared down the hall with the suitcase. A bedroom door closed firmly behind him. The moment he was gone, she exhaled sharply, shoulders slumping. She turned toward me, her face pale, but her eyes alive with something rawer than fear. "You should go," she whispered. I should have. Every instinct told me to, but I didn't move. Instead, I stood slowly, meeting her gaze across the dim room. "Do you want me to?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. She shook her head once, barely, almost invisible, before glancing toward the closed bedroom door. The tension snapped taut again. We stood there in silence, only a few feet apart, but it felt like crossing an ocean to close the distance. She bit her lip, eyes flicking to my mouth, then back to my eyes. My chest rose and fell too quickly, my fists clenched at my sides to keep from reaching for her. "We can't," she whispered, though her voice cracked on the last word. I took one step closer anyway. Her breath hitched. Her hand lifted, not to stop me, but to steady herself on the back of the chair. Our faces were inches apart again, so close the air between us was trembling. And then the bedroom door opened. Her husband's voice cut through the dark. "Forgot my charger." We sprang apart as he stepped back into the room. His eyes narrowed, just slightly as they landed on us. Her husband lingered longer this time, rummaging through his suitcase as though he had no reason to rush. My heart hammered, so hard I was sure it was visible. She stayed still, arms folded, lips pressed tight, pretending she wasn't unraveling under his presence. When he finally disappeared again into the bedroom, the door closing with a dull thud, the silence that followed was unbearable. I turned to her, my voice low, unsteady. "I should have left earlier." Her eyes snapped to mine. "Don't say that." The words came fast, too fast, like they'd been waiting in her chest. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing a step, then stopping, trembling. "Don't you dare make this sound like it was a mistake." I swallowed hard. "Wasn't it?" She stared at me, long, sharp, like I just wounded her. Then softer, her voice barely audible. "No one has looked at me the way you do. Not in years." The crack in her voice tore something in me. I stepped closer, my hand twitching at my side, wanting to reach for her, but stopping short. "And what if he finds out?" Her laugh was bitter, choked. "Do you think he cares? He doesn't see me. Not anymore. I could disappear tomorrow, and he'd barely notice." She turned away, shoulders shaking, and in that moment I couldn't hold back. My hand brushed against hers, tentative, grounding. She flinched at the contact, not because she wanted me gone, but because it was too much. Her eyes met mine again, glassy, desperate. "This is insane," she whispered. "You're too young." "I'm too. You're not too anything," I cut in. The words surprised me, but I didn't take them back. "I don't care how wrong it looks. I can't. I can't stay away from you." She froze, lips parted, silence roaring between us. For the first time, no excuse, no deflection, just the truth hanging heavy in the air. And then she snapped. Her hands gripped my shirt, pulling me closer, anger and longing tangled together in the way her body shook against mine. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" Her whisper was sharp, breaking. "I think I do, I breathed." We were so close our foreheads touched, our breaths colliding. Every reason not to collapsed under the weight of every reason we couldn't stop. "I shouldn't want this," she said, voice trembling, "but I do." Her lips hovered dangerously close to mine, hesitation trembling in the inch of air between us. My hands rose, cupping her face, feeling her breath stutter against my palms. Her eyes fluttered shut, and just as my lips brushed hers, the bedroom door clicked open again. The sound of the bedroom door snapping open was like a gunshot. I tore away from her, stumbling a step back, my pulse roaring in my ears. Her husband stood there, half-dressed, holding his phone, his face unreadable. For one dreadful second, I thought he had seen everything, but his gaze slid past me, straight to her. "You forgot to mute your messages," he said flatly, tossing the phone onto the couch. It landed face up, screen glowing with unread notifications. Her entire body went rigid. I glanced at the phone. A string of messages lit up, all from someone saved simply as Michael. Words like "last night," "can't stop thinking about you," "when will he leave?" stare back at us in bold letters. The air collapsed in on itself. He didn't look at me, didn't even acknowledge my existence. His eyes locked on her with a kind of cold finality that felt worse than rage. "You've been lying to me for months," he said. Not a question, a verdict. My stomach sank. I looked at her, desperate for some kind of answer, but she couldn't even meet my eyes. She just stood there, lips trembling, silent. The betrayal didn't belong to me. Not directly, but it sliced through me anyway. Had I been just another name on that list? Another mistake she didn't regret until she was caught? Her husband turned and left without another word. The slam of the front door shook the frame. The silence afterward was unbearable. Finally, I forced myself to speak, my voice harsher than I meant. "Who's Michael?" Her eyes snapped to mine wide, panicked. "It's not what you think." I laughed bitterly, though it didn't sound like me. "Then tell me what it is. Because right now, it looks like I've been fooling myself this whole time." She stepped forward, hand reaching, but I pulled away. "Listen to me," she pleaded. "Michael was before you. Before this. I told him it was over, but he wouldn't stop. Those messages, I didn't answer. Not once. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But the image of her phone glowing with those words burned behind my eyes. My voice cracked as I asked the only thing that mattered. Am I just another secret to you? Her face broke, her voice soft but desperate. No, you're the only thing that feels real. Her confession should have calmed me, but instead it rattled me even more. Because if it was true, It meant we were standing in the wreckage of everything she destroyed, and I was right in the center of it. I turned away, dragging a hand down my face, my chest tight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Behind me, she whispered, voice shaking, "Please don't leave." And just as I turned back to her, the phone lit up again on the couch, vibrating with another message. This time, her eyes dropped to it before she looked at me. And that hesitation said everything. The phone kept buzzing on the couch, each vibration like a hammer, driving deeper into the silence between us. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed it, thumb hovering over the glowing screen, but I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The fact that it was still coming, still alive, was enough. "Answer it," I said, my voice low. Her face crumpled. "I don't want to. Not when you're standing here." "That's not good enough?" I shot back, the words sharper than I meant. "If I'm real to you, if this is real, then you need to prove it." She swallowed hard, eyes glassy with tears. Her shoulders trembled as she reached for the phone, but instead of answering, she pressed the button and powered it off. The buzzing stopped, leaving only the sound of our breathing, uneven and jagged. "I'm done with Michael," she whispered, clutching the phone like it was something poisonous. "I should have been done a long time ago. But you're not just some mistake I bury. You make me feel alive, and I hate that it took me this long to admit it." Her words hit me like a wave. All the nights I'd questioned if I was just another secret, if I was temporary, fell into a different shape. But still, the fear didn't vanish. "And what happens tomorrow?" I asked. My voice cracked on the word. "When the guilt sets in, when he comes back, or when you decide I'm too young, too reckless, too." She stepped closer, so close I could see the way her lower lip trembled before she spoke. "Tomorrow terrifies me. You terrify me. But so does losing you." Her hand brushed mine, tentative like she was asking permission. And for the first time in hours, I didn't pull away. My fingers curled around hers, almost involuntarily. "This doesn't end well," I whispered. "Maybe not," she replied, her voice breaking. "But maybe it doesn't have to end at all." The honesty in her eyes was raw, stripped of all the defenses she usually wore. For a moment, I saw not the woman who belonged to someone else, not the neighbor who'd invited me in for coffee, but a person standing at the edge of something terrifying and beautiful, just like me. The weight of the choice pressed down on both of us. Walk away now and spare ourselves the wreckage, or step into it and accept whatever came. I pulled her closer, our foreheads touching, both of us shaking. "So this is it," I said softly. "This is it," she echoed. For a long moment, we stood like that, neither moving, both caught in the unbearable closeness of what was about to happen. And just as her lips parted, a sharp knock rattled the front door, splitting the moment in two. We froze, breath locked, hearts pounding. The world outside had finally caught up to us. The knock on the door didn't stop. It came again, louder this time, insistent, like the world wasn't going to let us hide anymore. My chest tightened. Her hand gripped mine, so hard her knuckles went white, but she didn't let go. For a second, we just stared at each other, caught in the thick silence between the knocks. I could see the panic in her eyes, the what-ifs flooding her thoughts, but beneath it was something else, defiance. She took a breath, straightened her shoulders, and whispered, "Whatever happens, don't move." Then she walked toward the door. I stood frozen, listening to the sound of the lock turning. When the door opened, it wasn't Michael. It was just a neighbor from down the hall, asking if she'd seen a missing package. Relief flooded her face, though she tried to mask it with casual small talk. She sent them off quickly, shutting the door again with a trembling laugh. When she turned back to me, something had changed. The fear was still there, but it wasn't the only thing anymore. There was a choice in her eyes. "I can't live in pieces anymore," she said, voice steady now. "Michael, the marriage, the pretending, it's already broken. Keeping you in the shadows would break me, too." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But doubt clung stubbornly to me. "You mean that now," I said carefully. "But what about next week? Next month?" She walked up close, so close I could smell the faint trace of coffee still on her breath. She placed her palm flat on my chest. Then next week, next month, I'll still be here. And if I falter, you remind me of this moment, of what it feels like to finally tell the truth. The weight of her hand, the warmth of it, said more than her words. For the first time since that first cup of coffee, I let myself believe. I don't want to be a secret anymore, I whispered. Then you won't be, she said. Something inside me loosened, like a knot finally untied. I pulled her into me, holding her like I was afraid she'd vanish. And for once, she didn't resist. No hesitation, no stepping back. Just her, pressed against me, choosing me. The world outside hadn't changed. There would still be questions, judgment, maybe even heartbreak waiting. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was that she'd stopped hiding, that she'd let me see her completely. We stood there in her quiet living room, wrapped in each other, while the city outside kept moving like nothing had shifted. But for us, everything had. And maybe that's how love begins, not with fireworks, not with perfection, but with two people finally too tired to keep pretending. I pulled back just enough to look at her, my voice barely above a whisper. So, what happens now? Her smile was small, almost shy, but her eyes held steady on mine. Now, she said softly. Now we stop running. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Speech Balloons, share your thoughts in the comments. Thumbs up, don't forget to like the video if it kept you hooked. Bell subscribe so you never miss the next story.